you're able to, please rise. Canada, our home and native land, true grace we love in all of us. Caparral se puede de la croix, ton histoire est une stand on your glory. Oh, we stand on your Okay, thanks everyone. So I will hand things over to our CAO for the roll call of passage.
Thank you, Madam Warden. District 1, Councillor Sean Sampson.
Present.
You. District 2, Councillor Michael Digdon.
Present.
You. District 3, Councillor Melanie Sampson.
Present.
District 4, Warden Amanda Mondercap.
Present.
And District 5, Deputy Warden Brent Sampson.
Present.
The roll has been called.
Okay, thank you, Troy. We have next on our agenda are any items added. There were 2 items that were previously added earlier today and documentation provided for those. So they were the Dolly Parton Imagination Library and information on Wind Europe to 2023. So are there any other items to add to the agenda? Okay, so I'll look for a motion to approve, please.
I'll approve the agenda.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilor Melanie Sampson. Any further discussion on the agenda? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. So the next item is the review of minutes, and I think we had noted a change around on the, I think I saw Councilor Melanie Sampson, you had noted a change that needed to be made on the drafts that we had before the motion to have been made by the Deputy Warden on Committee of the Whole. Is that?
Yeah, the first 2 motions in the Committee of the Whole report said that they were moved by somebody other than yourself and then seconded by you, and I couldn't,
I know.
I thought there might have been a reason, but I couldn't figure out a
There
reason.
was a discussion there, remember, because you brought up, we had to make an amendment to that, I believe. Yeah, I think it was discussed prior to the meeting that, we didn't have to make that amendment, it was.
Okay.
I don't think we're talking about the same thing.
Okay.
Or, no, you're right, because
You would have read the-
I would have read the report, but there was some discussion just to do with the wording on it.
So I believe I had a discussion on the,
It had to do with the letter to the public minister.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
And CEO, correct me if I'm wrong, when I talked to you, said we had made that amendment, so we didn't have to make it.
Right?
Okay. So
Where are we at?
So
Just
we're
so I can read.
So we're under committee reports,
Yeah, I'm
A,
right there.
the first 2 motions.
Okay.
And so both of them say that they were moved by Councillor Sean Sampson.
Or it had said that, it doesn't matter.
Okay, but what I'm saying is earlier today, that's what they said, right? But I think, yes,
I think it
the
was,
clerk mentioned she changed them, yes.
like, I think it was, I think I read the report and then I corrected it.
Yeah.
yes, you made a correction, but I still understood the motion had been made by you.
Yeah,
That's
right.
how I understood it.
I just
Agreed.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page
Yeah, so
there.
it has been changed,
Yeah.
yes, but yeah,
I think
So,
it had to do with the letter.
it was 2 motions. One was about, the meeting, they were both, I guess, related to.
Inserting the words.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
okay, so can I have a motion to approve the
so Madam
minutes?
Warden first.
Yeah.
This one, I don't know if I'm gonna find it. But I believe there was one where Deputy Warden had a nay vote.
Yeah, it was on the,
Yeah,
It was in the committee of the
to
whole.
the provincial minister of housing.
Bill 225.
Yeah, built in. So, and I'm not sure, but I just, something tells me that, in future, are you allowed to move the reading and then vote against it in the,
Yeah, when we looked into this, from what I gathered, if I were to make the motion, I
you
I
can't,
shouldn't speak negatively on it, but I can vote against it.
Right.
Correct.
Because we looked into it after you posed that question.
so I don't know and I only say this because
Yeah.
it probably will save some turmoil down the road, but in future, anybody's allowed to read right, any counselor's allowed to read the,
But in
The
theory,
Oh, yes,
yeah, but
absolutely.
in theory, you could change your mind throughout that discussion too,
Right.
right? So you know, any of
you
us.
can, but if you vote, if you make the motion to accept it, and unless there's discussion on that motion, not held by you, I don't know how to put
There
it.
was discussion on the motion, though.
Yeah, and you can't control the outcome at the forefront, right? Like,
Right.
when he reads the motion, he doesn't know whether or not there's gonna be discussion that's gonna change his mind. So he
Yeah.
can't, in anticipation of that, get somebody else to read it, right? That's by
Correct, but
position, that's his
he
job.
already voted,
But he
no,
could have changed
you-
his mind to yes.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure we've had instances in the past where a vote at the committee of the whole hasn't lined up with a vote of regular
That's right.
council. Like, and I mean, that's the whole point of having that sober second thought, I guess, that 2 weeks in between.
Mhm.
Because you may, you know what I mean? You may change your mind on something. In
Further
this case,
information could come to light. There's
I
any number
won't
of
change my
things.
vote.
yeah, and I agree, but it's on the flip side. So we got the information prior was the vote of nay, and then he read to accept it, I move to accept this, and then he voted nay again.
and from what I gather, because I looked into it, I shouldn't speak against the motion if I moved it. I can
Right,
vote against it, but I shouldn't speak against it.
Right.
Which he
okay,
did.
Which I didn't necessarily even know that night, to be honest with you. We looked into it afterwards.
okay,
But regardless, the minutes are,
Right.
the minutes do
The minutes are
reflect.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that discussion, correctly. Okay. Any further discussion on the minutes? I have a motion to approve, please.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sean Sampson. Seconded.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Melanie Sampson. So it's been moved by Councillor Sean Sampson, seconded by Councillor Melanie Sampson, that the minutes of February 27th, 2023 regular council be approved. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. All right, so we're going to give it a moment for our question period. So this is restricted to items on the committee reports. And the committee reports for this month being both the Committee of the Whole and the Planning Advisory and Heritage Committee. So the Committee of the Whole report, or sorry, I'll state the phone number to call, 902-227-9885. And we're going to leave this question period open for a maximum of 10 minutes or a minimum of, if nobody calls, we'll wrap it up. Oh, yeah, sure, yeah, go ahead, Betty. So we have a question from the gallery. And so again, these items are restricted to items on the committee reports, and for folks who would like to call in, the number is 902-226-9885. So over to you.
Good. I have a couple questions about the special constable.
Okay.
First of all, I guess, has in this documentation and approval by council, has their role been defined, documented? Has the process flow been defined and documented? Have the policies and procedures been defined and documented and accepted by council?
So I can tell you that we've had this as a preliminary discussion. All of the
Okay.
details that you're talking about have, to my knowledge, have not been nailed down.
Okay,
But this is, at this point, what we're doing, we're, accepting the recommendation to have staff as special constables. Now all of that work will need to ensue, right?
so before they become a special constable, that will be in place?
Before they begin acting as a special constable, we may, I think you were gathering information from,
EDPC.
EDPC about who that would be on their staff.
Yeah.
So it would, the intention is for it would be Sean Donovan, I think at this point.
And the roles and authority they have in other counties will just roll over into ours as it's defined currently. I believe there's very limited use of this special constable in this role. It's only in one other jurisdiction that they look after, but we're gonna use whatever they're doing in that as our template to start.
But my question was, is council gonna approve that before it becomes activated? Is there gonna be discussion as to what the scope of this, the
Yeah.
policy procedures, the process flow, like the flow chart of how it happens, what has to happen before, what happens at the end? Is that gonna be in place before this officer is put in place, my question?
So my understanding is that those pieces, like those practices, I will say, not necessarily policies, are in place with other jurisdictions, that we would adopt them, but it's a very good point. We
But that's-
definitely should see those
What it
before
looks like.
this moves,
But-
before it moves. forward.
Before that person gets the position. I mean.
Well,
we have-
before they begin to act in the position, we may appoint who it will be, right? But before they begin to act in the position, we should have that information.
But it has to be passed by council to
Yes.
approve the role, the process flow, so that we all know as residents and
Yes,
councilors
that's right.
especially, like if I call you and I ask, what's the process for this
Yeah.
special constable?
Yeah,
I
so we
would
will
like
have
to-
that.
Okay?
Yeah.
The next part is the appeal process pleading not guilty?
The appeal process for the summary offense.
Or something? Is it pleading not guilty? Is that the appeal process?
Well, that's a plea, not an appeal.
Well, it goes to my point, what is the appeal process and who
Right.
executes the appeal
And again,
process?
buddy, same answer as last time, right? So we would obviously take the practices of the other jurisdictions and apply them here. We can certainly, we can certainly ask that question specifically around appeal, and if there is a process and how that would work, right?
So there'd be public meetings on that process, so that,
I believe council would likely make that decision. I think it would be a decision of council. I don't anticipate. Maybe I'm
Hard
not
to say.
understanding. Maybe I'm not
I was gonna
understanding your
say,
question.
and I could be wrong, I understood it to be just like summary offense ticket, almost like a parking ticket or
Right.
something like that, that if you wanted to, that it would be basically pleading not guilty, as you're saying. I could be wrong, but I think that was the only.
right, so
only way.
I bring a lawyer, you bring a lawyer,
Not
you
not
go to court.
necessarily, because even like a speeding ticket, you wouldn't have to bring a
If you
lawyer.
go to court though, you're gonna,
No,
well, I
You
would assume the
can.
county's gonna have a solicitor who might say, I'm pleading not guilty.
Oh, no, I mean, as a resident, like, I'm thinking, like, if you got a speeding ticket, you don't really need to bring a lawyer to, if you're fighting that ticket, you can, but it's up to yourself.
Right, but the court is involved
Right.
Yeah,
and people's time.
Yeah.
All I'm saying
So
is if the appeal process is pleading not guilty, I think that we need an appeal process.
Right. So I'm not sure if I understood your question about, was a public consultation around what? What did you-
Well,
Around
if you're gonna
appeal
put the policy, if you're gonna put the process flow in place and arbitrarily say that the special constable issues a ticket and that's it, versus council coming to an agreement and saying, if the ticket is about to be issued, there's an appeal process for the defendant to appear before council or somebody.
But that's what you might mean by a public consultation?
Well, what I'm saying is a public consultation for a process in place to develop an appeal process, if there's none in place.
So normally,
my only thought would be, and like, say for the building inspectors, and I don't think we have anything for that either, right? Like, they don't,
Right.
it would be similar to however any other summary offense.
well, we would handle those discussions at planning advisory committee, right? Where there are members of the public, if we're making decisions about,
But if somebody was handed a fine, I don't think they'd appeal it to planning advisory, right?
no.
I think we're missing on what, if I'm not
I'm
mistaken,
not
Buddy's,
sure I'm
Buddy's trying to say that, are we gonna have public input before we go to that next stage? Are we gonna have the public, or before we set all these rules and regulations and all
Yes.
that?
So,
Like, are we gonna bring it to the public to say, you should do this and you should do that, or are we just gonna do it amongst council.
So I mean, I can't imagine defining a summary offense process with, with public comment, I'm not sure.
It's not the summary offense
Okay.
process, Warren, it's when you get to that point of somebody issuing it, what is the latitude of that officer in relation to either EDPC or the council? So what is that person's scope of
Right.
duties? And what has to happen, like, who knows what happened in the past? And once it's issued, or once he says it's going to be issued, do you have an appeal process at that point? Like, all I'm saying is there's, from what I've heard and seen, there's nothing in place to talk about the whole process for this, special constable.
Okay, so
This is
point
the first I've
taken.
heard of it.
Okay, so point taken, and I think, we will be looking to kind of adopt the practices most likely of the other regions that have this in place. But we'll pay special attention to this appeal process because I know it's definitely been on front and center on your mind. And then I can get back to you with some information if that's acceptable.
I'm just a little bit curious if somebody's bringing this to the table, obviously.
Planning Advisory Committee.
Right,
So obviously, they must have some insight into this process, and I would have thought they would have brought that to council as part of the special constable proposal.
right.
If I may, Madam Moore,
Sure.
it's here tonight. This is the first time coming from EDPC. It was suggested, PAC, sorry, from PA Planning Advisory Committee to hear that in the allocations that we need to determine tonight for our Eastern District Planning Commission budget for 2023, we had to decide whether we wanted to look at having a special constable and having the tools to issue SOTs through that office. We had to assign that person by April 1st, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So it's still being hammered out at the PAC on what that looks like. But they wanted to have that person in there so it at least could be developed this year. Because if we don't give them notice by April 1st, it's not happening until April 1st of next year. And PAC wanted to have this option to pursue it and go forward.
I don't know, it sounds like the cart's going before the horse myself, but
Well, ideally, we would have had it not right up against the date when they needed the answer, so that we could have seen, how is it working in that other jurisdiction? We already have summary offense in 2 of the categories with EDPC. This is now gonna add it under land use planning as well. So, the other tickets seem to work fine. Of course, being land, there's always contentious issues, but, again, with this one, we'll trust that they have the systems in place and they will put the necessary systems in place when we get to that point. The PAC just came with the recommendation that they would like to pursue special constables in land use planning as an addition to our budget for EDPC for this year.
so it's a budgetary item only that's on the.
Which will give this person.
But the budget's determining our deadline. For sure.
But from what we were told, there was no additional cost.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm looking, I'm
Right,
looking
it's
at,
authority.
yeah, so I'm looking at my notes for the PAC meeting on March 21st. So yeah, the PAC meeting for March 21st, I'm on that committee, buddy, so I'm looking at my notes and there is no extra cost, you're correct.
Yeah.
There is no.
These special constables are already appointed, they're appointed of staff of the Eastern District Planning Commission. One guy is John Martin and the other fellow is Sean Donovan, so they're appointed special constables already from the Eastern District Planning Commission. And Mr. Bain did inquire, did tell us that there's no extra charge for those constables.
But it's an annual appointment and the decision was made to not wait until the next fiscal year, right?
And they're right now appointed under different categories, like the building inspectors, the special constable, dangerous and unsightly crime assessment. Right now, there's nobody as a special constable under bylaw,
Right.
like land use bylaws.
Yeah.
And that was brought to us from a suggestion from another resident.
But there's no financial implication.
No, sir.
Sorry,
budget
when I'm saying
No,
budgetary, I'm
the
meaning
dead-
the fiscal year, right? So so the appointments are happening each fiscal year. We do them each fiscal
But
year.
no, I understand that,
But as far as monetary, no.
EDPC, so Sean Donovan is or isn't on May 1st? Like,
April
I'm
1st,
sorry.
well, not yet, but if we approve it tonight,
He will then have authority
Yeah.
Yes, and it would make zero difference if it was April 1st or May 1st, is my point. Anyway, that's my questions. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Okay, any other questions?
Fine, let's just approve it.
Okay, so we'll move on to the committee reports. So committee of the whole report, I'm gonna hand things over to you, Deputy Warden.
Committee of the whole report, March 2023. The committee met on March 13th, 2023. The committee discussed the Eastern District Planning Commission appointments and positions of the district planning staff. I move that the committee of the whole recommend to council to approve the following EDPC commission staff appointments and the positions for the 2023-2024 year effective April 1st, 2023 as follows. Building inspectors, Harry Martell, Andre Sampson, and Sean Donovan. Alternates, David McKenzie, Jonathan Martin, and Luke Ross. Special constable, Sean Donovan and Jonathan Martin. Development officer, Andrew Jones. Alternates, John Bain, Wanda Ryan, Don Sutherland, Kristen Knudsen, or Knutskoy, and Michaela Tate. Fire inspectors, Harry Martell and Andre Sampson. Alternates, Sean Donovan, David McKenzie, Jonathan Martin, and Luke Ross. Dangerous or unsightly premises, administrators, Jonathan Martin and John Bain. Alternates, Luke Ross, Harry Martell, and Andre Sampson. Special constables, Sean Donovan and Jonathan Martin.
Okay, so the motion's been made. Do I have a seconder on that?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councilor Sean Sampson. Any further discussion on the appointments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried.
The committee discussed the Autism Acceptance Month flag raising. I move that the committee of the whole recommend to council to have staff organize the Autism Acceptance Month flag raising and proclamation ceremony on April 3rd, 2023, and further move that staff advertise an invitation to residents and local media.
Do I have a seconder on that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councilor McDonald. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion is carried.
Committee discussed the Gaelic Nova Scotia month flag raising. I move that the committee of the whole recommend to council to have staff organize the Gaelic Nova Scotia month flag raising and proclamation ceremony for a date in May, and further move that staff advertise an invitation to residents and local media.
All right, the motion's been made. Could I have a seconder, please?
A second.
Thank you, Councilor Melanie Sampson. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion is carried.
The committee discussed Purple Day for Epilepsy Awareness. I move that the committee of the whole recommend to council the proclamation request from the Epilepsy Association of the Maritimes to proclaim March 26, 2023, the Purple Day in the municipality of Richmond County in an effort to raise awareness of epilepsy in Canada be approved.
I think that motion's been made. Can I have a seconder on that, please?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councilor Sean Sampson. Any further discussion?
Sure.
Right on. You're in keeping with the theme of the color of the night. So all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion is carried.
The committee discussed the grant request from Raising the Villages Cooperative Limited for Type 4 Regional Health General Grant Funds in the amount of $5,000. I move that the committee of the whole recommend to council that Raising the Villages Cooperative Limited grant request be approved in the amount of $3,000 for the purposes of supporting the costs of communications and network development, and allocated as follows: 150 from District 1, 350 from District 2, 1,000 from District 5, and 1,500 from the Type 4 General Fund.
Okay, so motion's been made regarding Raising the Villages grant. Could I have a second?
second.
on that? Thank you, Councilor Digdon. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried.
This concludes the Committee of the Whole report for the month of March 2023, and I move its adoption.
Can I have a seconder on that motion, please?
Yeah, second that motion.
Councilor Sean Sampson. Any further discussion on the committee of the whole report? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried. Okay, next item on the agenda is the Planning Advisory and Heritage Committee, and I believe Deputy Warden, you're gonna run through that for us as well, okay?
Planning Advisory Heritage Committee for the month of March 2023. The committee met on March 21st, 2023. The committee discussed the Point Tupper industrial zones. I move that council accept the recommendation of the Planning Advisory / Heritage Committee to accept recommendation from the Eastern District Planning Commission to approve the proposed amendments to the West Richmond Plan Area Municipal Strategy and Land Use Bylaw to allow A, the creation of a new heavy industrial restricted I-4 zone, which allows a limited number of industrial uses, including green energy facilities, subject to special provisions, specifically designed to address the protection of the Landry Lake water supply area. B, the concurrent rezoning of a portion of the property identified by PID 7511767 from the light industrial I-1 zone to the new I-4 zone. C, the addition of green energy facilities as permitted use within the watershed protection periphery W2 zone, subject to special provisions. D, the addition of green energy facilities as permitted use within the heavy industrial I3 zone, subject to existing zone provisions. E, the addition of rezoning policy for the new heavy industrial restricted I4 zone. F, the addition of a definition of green energy facility or facilities in the land use bylaw. And G, removal of single unit dwellings as permitted use within the heavy industrial I4 zone. And further move that council give first reading and set a public hearing date.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Warden. That was a mouthful. And can I have a seconder on that motion, please?
Second that.
All right, thank you, Councilor Melanie Sampson. Is there any further discussion? I will not repeat the motion. All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried.
The committee discussed land use bylaw summary offense tickets. I move that council accept the recommendation of the Planning Advisory / Heritage Committee to approve the Eastern District Planning Commission appointment of staff as special constables for land use bylaw enforcement for the 2023-2024, effective April 1st, 2023 year. Sean Donovan, Manager of Building Inspection Services, and Jonathan Martin, Senior Building Official.
Okay. Could I have a seconder on that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councilor Sean Sampson. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried.
This concludes the monthly report of the Planning Advisory / Heritage Committee for the month of March 2023, and I move its adoption.
Okay, could I have a seconder on that motion?
So
Thank you, Councilor Melanie Sampson. I knew what you
I'm in the
meant.
zone, I know you know that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. All right, so that moves us on to the next agenda item, which I believe is the first reading for the special events bylaw, which is bylaw number 67. We're looking for a motion that first reading approval be given to adopt this bylaw. And it is that the municipality recognizes that special events have a very positive impact on the community. Events help foster community involvement, improve quality of life, and provide many economic benefits, but at the same time, large events, if not adequately planned, have the potential to impact public safety and negatively impact the community. Therefore, the purpose of this bylaw is to be proactive in working with businesses, and event organizers to attract and implement new special events while supporting and building on the successes of the many existing events held throughout the municipality. So I'm seeking first reading approval to adopt this bylaw. So can I have a mover on that?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Councilor Sean Sampson. Can I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councilor Deacon. Any further discussion on that bylaw? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried, and in my distraction and asking Shelley to help me switch out computers, I forgot to thank you for all of that reading, Deputy Warden, for those committee reports. And thank you, Shelley, for rescuing me. So the next item on the agenda is the second reading regarding the amendment of the private ways bylaw. This is the bylaw number 66. And the object of this amendment to the private ways bylaw is to add section 5 regarding repealing and replacing. And it shall read as follows: that previous version number 1 dated June 28th, 2021, and all other versions of the private ways bylaw, bylaw 66, are repealed and replaced by this bylaw. So I would be looking for a mover for second reading approval be given to adopt the amendments.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Melanie Sampson. And can I have a second on that, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councilman Digdon. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. So, next on our agenda, will be, is a couple of items that I had under my name, which was related to welcoming food trucks. And so obviously I just wanted to kind of bring this to council's attention. We've seen some traffic in the community about a new food truck that's interested in coming to the village of St. Peters. I know there has been one, I think over the last year or two, maybe, in Point Michaud, down at Point Michaud Beach. And I think it's really exciting that these businesses are identifying Richmond County as a place to do tourism business. I think it's a great addition to our community. However, I've also heard some concerns from existing restaurateurs who have bricks and mortar facilities that they have to pay property taxes on, and et cetera, about, the level, potentially what they are seeing as potentially an unlevel playing field. And so, I know that other jurisdictions have, bylaws or policies related to food trucks in terms of, permits or fees and locations that are permissible, et cetera. And I just wanted to open this for discussion from council. So maybe I'll just ask, around the table, what your thoughts are on this. And if anyone would like to volunteer to go first, you're welcome to, or I'll start thinking. If you think that there's a need for such a thing, should we have a policy of some sort in place around this, or are we happy with this current status quo, I guess is the question.
Yeah, so for me, I did hear some rumblings from some food establishments in Richmond County. Being in the food business myself, I've seen this in the past. I think in recent years, we had some trucks in Crosby, where in the end there was, I think, a bylaw or policy put in place where there was permits for, people that would come in and work. So I don't know if that's something we want to look into or consider. Again, like you say, you have establishments here in Richmond County that have been running restaurants for years that are paying property taxes and employing Richmond County residents and paying taxes to our county. So yeah. So
Contributing to our communities, donations, and you name it, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
I think it's a trade-off though. You have, I don't wanna say it's uncharted waters because many people have done it in the past, but it's something that, I guess if you're set at Point Michaud Beach, most people aren't going to leave the beach to go into town to get something, but they really appreciate the fact that they can just run over there and get it, and then you look, I think we have to be careful because you look at beaver tails when they come, it's like the hit of the summer. And you drive all over the place just to get that little pretzel or whatever it is, soaked in chocolate with all the sprinkles on it. But it's not like you can get it every day, it just happens to be like, the once or twice a year they come through your. So again, if we do make a policy, do we do it for everybody? Is it straight across? And do we eliminate someone like that? That's, a big hit actually at the fire days.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. There are some folks who come in for a very limited period of time, for a day, a couple of days. And then there are others who I think are demonstrating an interest or coming like on a more seasonal basis, you know, so it's a good point. And I think you're right, like, I put very specifically on, you know, as the agenda item, welcoming food trucks, because I don't think there's, you know, there's a positive way that we can kind of proceed, so, yeah.
And there are, unless you own, and I'm not going to pick restaurants, but unless you own a restaurant right over here and the food truck's parked right across the road,
Mhm.
and that's the new bed, and you are taking, you know, revenue from the gentleman who's your yearly setup, so it's, I can understand where they would have it.
At the end of the day, it would be something we probably should bring forward in the bylaw policy. Because I think it's a discussion worth having, but I think the last thing we wanna do is discourage people
Exactly.
from coming to the county. I think we don't wanna do anything too punitive that would discourage them from setting up.
Yeah, I
We
agree.
do wanna acknowledge, you know, bricks and mortar businesses, as you say, and try and make something a little bit more fair.
And that might be, and like the deputy warden said, it might be just as easy as, you know, bylaw policy is setting up, parameters within so many miles, within so many,
Mhm.
you know.
Oh, no, I totally agree. When you look at some of those food trucks, you know, some of them were parked at cost stop. No one's giving cost stop. You know, to go wine and dine somewhere, but,
Mhm.
you know, some fries and onion rings after a night of cost stop, you know. And some, get some grease in you, and then when the food truck is right there, right?
Well, and again, timing, right? Like your regular restaurant closes at 8 o'clock, and
Yeah.
these guys may wanna run from 9 to 1 in the morning or
Yeah,
something.
that's right, exactly. A lot of discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that this conversation just proves to me
Yeah.
that we do need to do it, that's,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, and certainly, you know, the more variety we have in our county, the more attractive a tourism destination. So maybe it's not about taking from, maybe it's about
Right.
building a bigger piece of the pie, right? A bigger pie for some of the pieces.
For instance, I mean, the lack of any kind of services at Point Michelle Beach for years. I mean, I wish when I was a teenager, we had a food truck there.
Yes, you got that right. Yes.
You know,
Okay, all right, so maybe at this point,
but don't go swim for an hour afterwards.
that's right. Safety first. So perhaps at this point, we could refer this to bylaw and policy, but perhaps also request that staff look at some examples of what's happening in other communities, so that we could have that information for our bylaw and policy meeting and.
You got it.
Okay, so could I have a motion to refer this to bylaw and policy and to request that staff investigate examples in other communities of how food trucks are welcome?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dayton. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Any further discussion on that item? Okay, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. All right, and so the next item on the agenda is an update on the regional kind of idea of a regional and shared bylaw enforcement officer. So the group that has been meeting met again, and really came down to, we discussed sort of you know, the difference in our bylaws, and there was a whole lot less commonality between the multiple, municipal partners at the table than I thought there was gonna be. So, you know, what we came down to was that we would look at, maybe as municipalities who are interested in participating, to identify what would our top 3 bylaws be, that we would maybe see the need for some, you know, enforcement related to, and then, you know, each municipality bring those top 3 forward, and then the group will meet again to further narrow down the field and identify, you know, is there a job description and a set of policies and procedures that we can kind of create around this type of position. So, you know, so Mulgrave had taken it back to their council, and they've referred 3 policies in, and they're looking for us to do the same. So I don't know at this point if we're feeling fully prepared to do that. Maybe we take that to the next bylaw and policy committee meeting. And I'd be happy to maybe, you know, to give this kind of update, but to the larger group, because I'm not sure that some of the members of that committee would have the full background, the full context.
No, that's good.
Does that sound okay to you folks?
And I think even maybe consulting with staff,
Yeah.
probably have an idea as to what might be most appropriate for that.
Yeah.
And we're also using this opportunity, if I may, Madam
Mhm.
Warden, to look at possibly harmonizing some of the bylaws so that when you go from Richmond to Inverness to Port Hawkesbury to Antigonish or Guysborough, we're trying to find some commonalities, and where we're close enough with just a little wordsmithing, let's try and get it harmonized so that when you look to enforce, you don't have an enforcement officer up there with 5 different bylaws for the exact same thing that changes as soon as you cross an artificial line on a map. Alright, so.
Yeah.
Media.
Whew.
That would be the dream. Okay, so if folks are okay with that, we'll just pop this on as an agenda item for our next bylaw and policy committee meeting. So maybe I could have a motion to refer this discussion to that committee.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Could I have a seconder, please? Councilor Sean Sampson, thank you. Okay, any further discussion on that item? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. So next up on the agenda is the item added related to the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. So just to give council an update with the recent, announcement on the closure of Richmond County Literacy Network, which we received some time ago, the board had been looking for an alternate organization to take on administering this program, the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. RCLN has been sponsoring that program since about 10 years. And it has been funded primarily by the big golf tournament that they used to do each summer. And of course, funds now, they haven't held a golf tournament in some time. And so, at this point, they are financially unable to continue, and certainly are unable to continue the program. So the impact of the program, in their minds, and I think, I would agree with this, has been significant because any child living in Richmond County between the ages of birth and age 5 are eligible to sign up and receive a book each month free of charge. The Imagination Library provides the book for free, and the Literacy Network has been paying the postage. So currently there's about 103 children in Richmond County on the list. And again, RCLN is unable to financially continue. The cost per postage, of postage per child is about $5 per month, which results in a total cost over the year of about $6,000. And that's very much an average, because it would kind of depend on the size of the book and et cetera, et cetera. But that's about the average cost per year. So, when I first had begun just, hearing about this through the Literacy Network and that they've had to kind of suspend the program temporarily, given what we had learned from Ms. Melnick about Richmond County's status with regards to the early development instrument, right? And that's the instrument that measures children's ability to, to meet developmental expectations kind of thing. So it just really struck home for me that this is a very important program. Young children who have access to books at an early age have a better chance of success as they start their formal education. So I just wanted to provide council with an update because it's something that Troy and I have discussed a couple of times, and as well as with Shannon and Murray. So through those discussions, I think, Troy, you've been in discussion with Eastern County's regional libraries to look at maybe taking over the provision of this service in Richmond County and what the associated costs, would be, that they would take that on as well. So those talks are still ongoing, I would say. But I just wanted to put this on everybody's radar, and to get a sense from council about whether or not, you'd be in favor of the library kind of pursuing this course of action if they're able to financially.
Are we able to look at continuing, say, a fundraising event like that to?
I will tell you, a golf tournament's a big deal to put on. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my goodness. No, I just don't know if we, is that a thought that, and not even to be that specific.
So I will, honestly, I think where the conversations that I've had with my contact has been Lynn Wombold. So far our conversations have really focused in on corporate sponsorship for it, as opposed to trying to create a sort of fundraising event activity. But right now, the library's investigating whether or not they would have room in their budget to take it on. And if not, could we direct some corporate sponsorship that way? So
I
that's.
think there's probably an appetite out there to sponsor the great program.
100%.
And that's where we don't want to see it over the wayside.
Right.
And if my memory serves me right during that presentation, I think Richmond County was behind the eight ball, I think.
Well, I think among the lowest in the
Right.
province.
It was bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Our results.
I remember asking the question, what can we do to help? And I think this is it.
This is something we could do to help.
This is one of those things.
Right, yeah.
And I mean, I guess if that falls through, I would certainly like to see that be referred to budget
Okay.
discussions, for sure.
Okay,
I think we don't want this program to fall away,
okay, great.
my opinion, yeah.
It was the first thing we reached out to Eastern counties on
Yeah.
when we heard, things were going a little south of the literacy network, just to make sure that this program stayed afloat.
Thank you for that.
Well, we heard from everybody how important this program was. I was unaware of it, but when you hear about it and what it is,
Yeah,
it aligns with what we're trying to achieve here.
for sure, for sure. So I would just take this opportunity to thank the Literacy Network for coming up with this as a concept and for all the work they've done over the years. And, I know they're having an AGM on Wednesday evening, so wish them every success with that as well, so. Okay, all right, thank you, Counselor. So I don't think we need a motion on that. This was really just an information update, but to your point, Counselor Melanie, we'll keep this in the back of our mind for budget if we, if things kind of go sideways there, okay. All right, so the next item on the agenda is related to travel for Wind Europe. So I do want to just kind of jump down a little bit to the Offshore Wind Task Force press release, which was a piece of correspondence for information purposes along with a one pager that was included in your agenda package. So obviously this is a related activity. We have been invited by the provincial government to participate in a delegation that will be traveling to Copenhagen for Wind Europe. And as you're aware, I'm sure, most of the clean fuels production proposed for Point Tupper is focused on the European market. So the development of these partnerships is extremely important. I provided you with some information on the activities that are being planned. And they're significant, because there's a conference in there too, right? So the province is really focused on checking out partnerships around potential investors, checking out partnerships related to port infrastructure development, which I believe we have huge potential for here in Point Tupper, and as well as connecting with several industry partners as well. You'll know, I'm sure, in the documentation that Scott Herbert's name is mentioned in there from the EGIR Insights. Scott is the consultant who has been advising the provincial government on kind of a path forward when it comes to offshore wind development. And so he's also happens to be from Dundee, County, so a good local fella. And so what I've proposed essentially would be that I would travel to Wind Europe to take advantage of the province's invitation. I would like to say a big thank you to Troy and Shelley, and especially Shelley, because I know she whipped up some cost approximations today in a quick hurry. It's looking like it would cost approximately $5,700 to attend the conference for a person. And so wanted to kind of bring this forward to council at this point to see if you would be supportive of this work, but also supportive of similar to how we did heavy garbage, like a potential pre-approval on a travel budget for the warden, so that it doesn't, so that we have that in the plan for budgeting in the coming year. My suggestion is, however, that, and I propose this to the Cape Breton Partnership, we do have an economic development officer, Martin Thompson, who started it with us in January, happens to be from Denmark.
Yes.
Handy. And, we have been wanting to, really rely, and he has a background related to offshore wind as well because of his work, actually, I think in Scotland, in the Highlands and Islands. So my proposal really was for me to attend. I believe Mayor Brenda is going to be making an attempt to attend as well. And of course, as co-chairs of the task force, we see that as a priority, but then also for Martin to attend. And for Martin's cost to attend to be sort of 50% funded by the Cape Breton Partnership and then 50% funded by our two municipalities, so 25%. So, so you know, if we look at the costs that Shelley was able to put together, related to airfare, accommodations, and then I added in costs related to meals and some incidentals, it would be about $7,200 for both of us to attend. Although, I will confess, the mechanism of allocating, you know, funds for Martin, I would, you know, he is our economic development officer, but he is not on our payroll, so I think we would need to figure that out. Perhaps the partnership would invoice for that,
Possibly,
you know,
that could work,
or we would invoice them.
and we could hit it a bunch of times.
Right.
Just getting that approval.
Right, so that is my current proposal, and that event is coming up at the end, so the conference is like at the last week. of
April 23rd, you're gonna fly.
23rd to the 28th. So questions, comments at the stage? Just threw a whole lot at you. Sorry.
No, I mean, I think it's important for us to be represented there as well. Like, there's been a lot of topic, obviously, in our own province, but across the country about us becoming a hub for wind and green energy. And I think for us not to be there is probably a big miss on our part. It's not, I'm not saying it's a little bit of money, but it's not a crazy amount of money. The fact that it's in the next budget year means that Jason can create a space for that. So, you know, it's actually less concerning than if we were trying to find a space in our current budget for it.
Right.
My opinion, I would support that, and I would also support the funding of our development officer, especially because we're talking about 25% of it, and it just may be, and obviously if the other two partners don't partner in, then unfortunately he has to stay behind, but, yeah, I would support all of it.
Okay. All right, any other comments on it?
Well, I think we should be represented there.
Yeah.
If the province is asking this, I'd rather have people from the local area there than have somebody from Halifax trying to define. Would probably say it's in Port Hastings.
Thank you for saying that, Deputy Warden, because this was my concern as well. This, you know, we have a good shot at this industry, and
I think one thing we have to remember is that and I know every taxpayer is probably thinking, what are we doing sending our warden, which is fine, because I have no problem in saying, you know, the time, the money, the effort that we've put in the last couple of years for the wind energy, green energy project is immense. So to me, this is actually a low cost to have, you know, two very important representatives come from our district to again, you know, represent us. So yeah, I agree. It's
okay, so any other comments or questions about the itinerary? So the itinerary is not done, they're still adding to it, which is a little terrifying. But anyway, we'll do our best with the jet lag, it's what it is, and you know, but if are there any questions or?
No, Madam Warden, I'm in the same opinion as everybody else. I'll only talk wind energy for the last 2 years or a year and a half, and not have representatives from Richmond County at that conference, right? In total agreement with that proposal.
Because the offshore wind task force has no budget, right?
No,
So.
no, it's
You know what I mean,
been
like-
involved, like a largely volunteer
Right.
effort.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And who's on that force?
So the task force has over 30 signatories now. They include economic development agencies led by our two municipalities, but it also includes representation from Guysborough County, Victoria County. We've got representatives from SEPI there. We've made presentation to Bidaba there, you know, so Budladek has a couple of counselors assigned. So it's quite a collection. And of course, our industry developers. And from that group, there's an executive, so that's our larger task force. There is an executive committee that meets more regularly, kind of on the mechanics and to develop, you know, ideas and strategy that we take back to the broader task force. And that includes a representative from the Marine Renewables Canada, Elisa Oberman, as well as myself, Mayor Brenda, Kevin McCaffrey, Tyler Mathis, Martin Thompson, and Jennifer McNeil. I'm probably missing someone. I should never have started to name names.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
I mean, ideally, you know, the request was made for members of the task force to go. I
Yes.
mean, ideally, the task force would be going to all of its partner members and all that.
Right.
But like, the reality is the time does not allow for that. And, you know, if we were talking about a very, very large dollar project, then I would probably say, no, we need to be making asks of all of the
Yeah.
partners, you know?
Yeah,
And I'm not saying that I don't think the task force should ask, just send out an ask, but I don't think that you're gonna get a response
yeah.
as quickly as you're gonna get from.
And I think there's a huge municipal interest in this project, in this
In
conference in
this
particular,
specific,
right?
yes, agree.
Around those connections to local
Yeah.
governments. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also wanna just mention too that I did meet with the Richmond County Inshore Fishers Association, and they have, they're eager to have a seat at the table as well, so. Yeah, so,
Nice.
you know, we've really talked a lot about making sure that, you know, when using a word like offshore, what does that mean? Like, how far is that, right? What is the depth? And then, you know, if this is gonna be an industry that proceeds here, we need to make sure that it does so, ensuring that it's not to the detriment of another one, right? So that's been a guiding principle of the task force since day one, so I was really pleased to be able to do that and talk about that. Okay, so at this point, I look for a motion to pre-approve the warden's budget for 23-24, the travel budget to be at increased, it was as at 4,000 to be increased to 10,000 to be able to accommodate for this trip, and further to support 25% of the costs towards our development officer being able to participate as well. Does that make sense? Or you can reword as you see fit.
I'm just like, the number in that motion makes me uncomfortable, and I don't mean because it's high, low, or whatever, it's just that it then puts it in a pigeonhole. And although there was research done today, tomorrow, everything could go to get booked and it could all
Right.
go sideways,
Okay,
right? So,
so would you rather say 100% of?
well, we have a travel policy, and the travel policy says, you know, that we pick the most economical
Yeah.
methods of travel and all, you know, again,
Yeah,
I'm paraphrasing, right? So I think the motion should say something like to increase the
per
warden's budget for 23-24 to compensate for the costs of
This convention.
this convention in accordance with our travel policy or something like that.
That works.
And then further to fund 25%,
I'm good with that.
yeah.
I think once we get into budget discussions, we'll have a better idea of
Yeah.
how much we're gonna, like, what we're talking about now is this one specific thing.
Right.
Right.
yeah. And I mean, we have been across the board for all of us underutilizing our travel. You know, like in our 2020, 2021.
Yep.
I only used about 40% of my travel budget, and like last year it was like, you know, about 50%, and
Yeah.
that's COVID, right?
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, so our budget has been, I think, used sparsely, but nonetheless, we need to plan for it. So you're suggesting, Councilor Melanie Sampson, that it would be a pre-approved, how do you want to word that?
Well, just that we would make a motion to pre-approve the travel required to attend the Wind Europe conference, April 23rd to whatever the date is, following our current travel policy.
Okay,
Because then we don't set ourselves, because the original motion was trying to set your budget for next year, and I'm not ready to set that because
Yeah.
we may wanna put more
right,
things there for the
Right.
budget, for
There
the,
could be more coming out.
that's right.
Right.
So
Okay.
I'm not comfortable with setting your amount for next year, just.
so it's pre-approval of warden's travel to cover the costs to attend Wind Europe.
And should we, I'm just wondering, should we even be as specific as to say when you're, because not only are you attending that conference, but that agenda also
Oh,
had
yeah,
other
you're
pieces, right? So to accompany the Nova Scotia delegation, however that's worded in your brief, I don't have it up anymore, so.
Okay, so pre-approval of the warden's travel to cover the costs to accompany the Nova Scotia delegation to
On their
Copenhagen.
mission to Copenhagen,
Yeah.
including the Wind Europe.
Including Europe.
Yeah.
as per travel policy.
Mhm.
And further to support 25% of travel of the economic development officer
Mhm.
for the same.
Yeah,
Should he secure the other
should he
75?
secure, of
Secure.
course, should he
Yeah.
secure the other.
Okay.
So he's sitting in Toronto.
Quarter of the way to
Get
get
Okay, so obviously I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Melanie Sampson. Could I have a seconder on that, please?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried.
Can't wait to hear about it.
I can't wait to learn.
Her fingers will be going crazy that week.
Don't come back
Yes.
in May looking for another trip waiting.
I'm gonna need a new, I'm gonna need a laptop with a longer battery or something. I don't know. I'll have to make sure I'm charged all the time. Okay, that's great. So I'll let the task force know and I'll follow back up with Tyler on this from the Quebec Partnership. And, he can follow up with Martin. Okay. So the next item on our agenda then is we're jumping into correspondence. So we have a few pieces. We'll begin with Donna Lugar from the Nova Scotia Lyme Support Group regarding Lyme Disease Awareness Month. Did I see that in here? I'm not sure if I did or not. So they have reached out to inquire as to whether or not the municipality would once again proclaim May as Lyme Disease Awareness Month. It's important, they feel, to keep this issue at the forefront for residents so that proper precautions are undertaken. And specifically, they talk about, how important it is for quick diagnosis and treatment to be obtained. They've also asked this year that if we have any facilities that could be lit in lime green for all or a portion of that month, that would be appreciated as well. So they have provided a draft proclamation. And so I would at this time, inquire as to council would be supportive to approve the proclamation as presented, and if so, then I will go ahead and read it once the motion is made. So. Okay, so it's been moved by the Deputy Warden to adopt the proclamation for Lyme Disease Awareness Month as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Melanie Sampson. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. So the proclamation reads, whereas Lyme disease is a serious illness caused by the bite of a black-legged tick infected with the bacterium Borrelia burgdorferi, and I did a better job of that last year. Anyway, and whereas black-legged ticks carrying a variety of diseases or illnesses can now be found in all parts of Nova Scotia, and whereas awareness, education, and practicing preventative measures such as daily tick checks and proper tick removal can help reduce your chances of contracting tick-borne diseases. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Warden Amanda Mumbercat, on behalf of the municipality of the County of Richmond, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as Lyme Disease Awareness Month. So thank you, councillors, and Troy will maybe leave this in the hands of staff to kind of put that out there to
You got it.
social media and all of the places that it needs to go. So thank you very much.
Look for the bullseye.
All right. Okay, next item on the agenda was an email that I had forwarded from Blair Sampson, who is beekeeper in your district deputy warden about No Mow May. So he's requesting that we support No Mow May again, the campaign. His email I thought was really a lovely gesture because he felt that last year's efforts to promote were met with great success. And he talked about how much chatter it created in the county, about understanding the plight of the bees and how many property owners had participated by allowing their yards and lawns to grow unattended and filled with the dandelions and coltsfoot, and all of which I have no problem with.
No.
So I guess open for discussion on how we can support this year, or if we would like to. You're a believer.
I'm fully in favor, but I know some people last year didn't make it to the end of May.
No, I know. The grass
I mean,
gets a little
we're not
thick.
pointing any fingers.
Well, but however, it's funny because this did, at the event in Norway's prior to that, I won't identify the person, but it came up in conversation yesterday, that same discussion.
Mhm.
We said, yeah, the first 3 weeks are no big deal, but you get after that last week, week and a half,
Yeah,
getting pretty thick. there,
it's a
but,
job to get there,
You know,
yes.
it's great, and I think, Blair and his wife Cindy would probably see the results from that, especially with the amount of lives they have around the Norway's area.
I see the bees at my house.
Yeah.
It's anything, so. Okay, so, would councilors be in favor again of us, promoting this on our social media, at our facilities?
Sure.
Or wanna let the front lawn grow?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll
great.
make that motion.
And before the motion's made though, I did wanna ask, last year we did discuss about signs, because I think there was some question about, some people may not be aware.
Yeah,
why
why we're letting the
why
grass
we're
grow.
letting the grass grow so much.
Yeah.
So we may want
Should
to,
let EDPC know as well in case they get complaints. Yeah.
right,
I believe that was part of our motion last year.
was it? I can't recall, I'd have to go back and,
But we should get some, like, we have time now. I think last year it might have been a little quick,
yeah,
so we have time this year. I think we should get a few signs for municipal properties.
okay, okay. And maybe, once we do get a few signs for municipal properties, we can encourage folks to do the same
Mhm.
and help spread the word, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, great.
We need to play with this.
So I don't know if we need a motion for that, or unless
We need a
you'd like to,
motion if we're going to.
put one on the record, Debbie?
Oh, yeah, I'll make that.
Okay, so the motion is to support the No Mow May campaign again this year, through social media, our facilities, and potentially some signage, so.
Cost to cover the signage. Okay.
Okay.
And we'll keep it.
Yeah,
But
Second.
okay, thank you, Councilor Melanie Sampson. Any further discussion on that item? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. The next item on the agenda, under correspondence, is a memo from Chris Boudreau, Director of Public Works, and it's a briefing note regarding the multi-use facility feasibility study. And he basically summarized that the capital investment plan, the budget amount that we included for that study of $50,000 to carry out the conceptual planning, it was well under what the bids came back as. And I know when we discussed that, I will say, I think there was a miss in communications there as we kind of onboarded new, from when Dawn's retirement to then Karen and then Chris, because I think from day one, we always talked about it being a multi-use facility, but then recreation had somehow got tagged in there. I
think the idea came from the record, like, it was
It's
Lori
because
that
of the
presented it to us, I think,
Exactly.
and, I think we may have referred to it in that way, but
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
intent was certainly that it would be a multi-use.
Yes, exactly. So, and I know originally when we spoke, we talked about leveraging this with provincial or federal dollars. So, we did look into, trying to access bilateral agreements, and those funds have been expended. There may be some other, areas where we could look for funding from this. I'm thinking maybe through an ECHO ICF or something like that, but for right now, in order to move forward, staff was seeking council approval to commit up to an additional $80,000 in the current budget year towards that cost from capital. So from capital,
It's
No, it's
additionally, I know I read
It's
it twice.
additionally. The
Like-
lowest bids came in at I think was about 120,000. Yeah, it's a big undertaking, right? So,
But they're not just talking about like a quick, they're doing some real work here.
yeah,
so.
this is no longer a conceptual plan. This will get us to the ability to
look
actually
for funds.
go for more funding
Yeah.
as well. So it's gone from conceptual to feasibility.
So, there's a recommendation in there from staff, seeking our approval. I still feel strongly that we could be leveraging funds from other sources.
We'll keep walking.
Like through a COA or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or perhaps even through, communities, culture and heritage.
CCH.
Yeah, with the province. So at this stage, maybe I'll just hand this over to you, Troy, and
Yeah.
you could maybe give us a sense of, like why the recommendation would have come in this format, and like, is there a urgency and timelines here?
Just to keep it moving forward, because we know that you guys don't wanna lose time, the rec, study is going through right now. And if we wanna hit this year, once we get that, move right into this, the timing would be perfect. And this gets us to the point where we can easily, the rec study is gonna tell us a lot. But this will also, open up another process to, really hammer out where this is going to be, what do people want, where they want it, because once you cite it, our geography is so large that we have some people that leak to Port Hawkesbury, some that go up to CBRM based on the activities. So where we cite this will be very, very important, to how big this thing is and the services, that the people wanna see offered here.
Yeah.
So it's a big project, so it's gotta be done right if we're gonna do it. Cause you're gonna be talking 20, 30, 40 million dollars for a facility this size.
Mhm. Okay, thank you, Troy. So counselors, how are you feeling about this? I mean, we could put
That's
forward
long.
I know, it's a lot of money. We could put forward the motion though, as presented, or we could, you know, put a condition in there that we will continue to encourage staff to leverage those funds with other levels of government.
Like, I feel that they do that anyway. I know that everything that they do, they're always trying to leverage other money, but I mean, probably. But is our approval contingent on them accessing other money, is the question, I guess.
Yeah, but it would depend on the program, I think.
Yeah, we would like your motion to be free and clear, and anything we find is just bonus, right? So that we can
Yeah.
proceed with confidence,
Mhm.
because we need to issue that's awarded.
Is this something that can come out of our gas tank infrastructure?
CCBF?
Yeah. Probably one of the 18 points infrastructure.
It's all of the
Yeah.
18 points.
Yeah.
Counting on you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sport, recreation, they're all there.
Yeah.
Infrastructure.
Tourism, depends what's going in the building.
I'd still like to,
Yeah,
look elsewhere for the money instead
Yeah.
of using
Yeah.
our own
Yeah.
internally, but,
Okay. Okay, well, you know, at this point, we could leave it broad enough that we provide staff with approval to commit up to an additional $80,000 in the 2023-2024 budget in order to cover the costs of the study. We could leave it broad in that way, so that if we do decide, you know, this would be eligible through for CCBF, or we are able to leverage, you know,
other funds.
yeah. Because the wording is up to an additional 80,000, right? So it doesn't say. So would anyone be prepared to make that motion, or do we need a little more time to think about this? I'm not.
I have to tell you, I need a little more time. I don't know that I'm ready to. I don't know.
Okay.
It's just, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money, and then the building is a lot of money. Like, and I know, I was just trying to see if I could find like what we were expecting it to look like in terms of pricing. I mean, I think that you're probably in the ballpark, but I just.
Well, those amounts are responses to an RFP that was released.
Yes, no, the 130 or whatever
Yeah.
you're talking about, yeah, I know.
Well, that would allow us to award
Yes, I follow.
Yeah.
Well, look, again, if the rest of council is ready to make a decision, then I think, you know, that's up to whoever to make that motion or whatever. I feel like I need a couple of weeks to think about it, and I'm not talking about I wanna wait months, I just feel I still wanna think about it a little bit more.
I think I'm ready, well. I guess at this point, I have no problem making the motion, it just allows them to continue to move forward, it doesn't, we've already, again, I believe that we're heading in that direction in some sense regardless of size. So,
Well, we know that our arena is coming to the
Right.
end of its life, right? So
and that's my
some
point right
decision
there,
will have to be made.
what, right, so
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd feel more comfortable with it if staff was able to find out, maybe even in the next couple of weeks, if there was any other avenues we could possibly get funding this, that we don't know for sure, then like, well, it is a big dollar.
Mhm. It is.
And we may go ahead with it anyway, even if we can't get any other levels of funding, just.
It was easier to swallow when it was 50 than when it's 50 on our own, but 130 on our own is a
Mhm.
different thing to swallow.
Question. No question, okay, all right, so, I guess, so, okay, I'm just gonna do a quick check-in then, so we can get through this, but Deputy Warden, you'd rather postpone? Okay,
Please.
Councilor Melanie Sampson?
Yeah, so we hold off on what, until maybe next council meeting.
Yeah, look, I just-
Give staff enough time.
Yeah, I'd just like to see if staff can do a little poking to see if there's anything, even like potential, you know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. So bring it back.
yeah, we'll bring it back to the committee.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
You're okay with that, Councilor Johnson?
Yeah, I'm okay with bringing it back.
Yeah, I'm good either way, cause
Okay.
I feel if it comes back in a month's time, whether they find money or don't find money, we're still, we gotta move
Yeah, we'll have to make.
in one direction or the other, so.
Decide.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. Okay, great, so we won't, need a motion then as a result of that, but, Troy, please do thank Chris for his work on that.
I will. And those others that are shaking the trees.
Mhm, and everybody.
Because we do have some
I
work
know-
on the
I know
go,
that
we
there's
just can't speak
always-
on it.
Yeah.
So it'd be
Yeah.
improper for me to say anything
Yeah.
at this point in time.
Okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda then is additional correspondence, and this is for information purposes. This is from Fisheries and Aquaculture regarding the notification of new marine applications, and it's specifically notification of a new marine aquaculture application located at Lazar's Island and Walsh's Deep Cove. Am I saying Lazar correctly?
Mhm.
Am I? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So, and there's no action for us to take on it, it's just a
No,
notification.
just
provided by
notification.
provincial government, so. The next item on the agenda is response from the Nova Scotia Department of Municipal Affairs and Housing regarding a rent supplement program. Questions that the Straight Richmond Housing Coalition had put forward through council to, regarding how the rent supplement is calculated. And it's when it takes effect. I think the letter gave us some information. I don't know that it's the level of clarity that the coalition was seeking, but I'll certainly share the letter with the coalition for discussion. But I also wanted to make sure that council had seen it as well. And again, the next item is the offshore wind task force press release and the one pager that accompanied it. I think we've already discussed that. But yeah, just continuing that work to try to engage as many stakeholders and rights holders as we can so that we have a voice in determining our own energy security going forward. So the next item on the agenda is additional items added from this evening, and there were none. Wrong, I jumped right to the end of the agenda. Do you see that? The next item is unfinished business regarding the special constables for land use bylaw enforcement.
And that's already been covered, and we just left it in the agenda. For anybody that was following the last agenda, to expect to see it under unfinished, it's there,
Great.
you've already covered it all.
Okay, thank you. And then the next item is the review of action items. I did send a couple of updates to Shelley on that. The letter to Minister of Housing has been sent, or Municipal Affairs has been sent regarding Bill 225, as well as an invitation to Minister Maslin if she would like to come and meet with us here in Richmond and learn all about beautiful Richmond County. So I will let you know if we see responses on those. Any other questions on the action items list? Okay, well, there were a couple of items there, I think, that we were discussing related to question period
Mhm.
from last time that I did want to make sure we brought back,
Yes, ma'am.
but do you have it open there?
I do.
Okay, so,
And they're right there, 179.
right, so I'm just gonna borrow your screen here because I'm noticing I'm not on camera. Just can't have enough screens. So there were a few questions that had come up at question period. One was kind of developing a service standard for responding to public inquiries, and do we have such a thing? So I believe that's something that we'll end up referring to bylaw and policy, so we'll have to cover that in those discussions. The Eastern District Planning Commission, there was a request to have public meetings posted on the municipal website on the calendar here, and that is being done now. So we're currently posting posting them under the council meetings on our website so that they're easier to find. They are open to the public. Any other detail that I may need to provide on that?
I don't think so.
Can we, sorry, Madam Warden, can we include like the television stations? I know we keep posting on our website and the other websites, however, there's a lot of seniors that just watch the Channel 4, maybe the St. Peter's channel, so I'm sure.
Put it on the scroll or
Just put it on the
something?
scroll and.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of seniors that don't use,
I think it'd be a good thing to utilize that more, yeah.
yeah.
I do too. It's a lot of meetings, like, because I'm thinking not just EDPC, I'm thinking
Right.
committee meet, like,
Yeah,
maybe we could figure out if there's a happy medium
We can
there.
talk to Becky and see.
Yeah, okay, cool.
I think the more we can use that, just even.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gets you in a lot of homes.
I agree,
Yeah.
yeah. The next item was regarding
The lanes?
appeal process for land development, and I think that's something that has been taken under advisement. But then there are two items on there regarding the property tax sale, and if there's liens on property, and how the county accepts that. And then if if the property is sold in tax sale, can the owner ask for the difference between what is owed and what is received? So those two pieces, although they're marked complete because they were referred to the CFO, and he did send a response back to the constituent who asked those questions. But I did ask Troy and Shelley to get that correspondence to us so we can see it and make sure that it's part of the next public meeting that we have.
You got
So the questions asked in public are being answered in public.
In public as well.
So that'll happen on our next agenda, so,
Yep.
but the constituent has been reached back. So. Okay, so now we're at items added, and there were none, so we will open it for an additional 10-minute question period. This is restricted to the remainder of the agenda following the committee reports. So we'll accept questions from the gallery, or if you're calling in by phone, the number to call is 902-226-9885. That's 902-226-9885. So we'll just give that a minute. Okay, and there probably isn't a delay with this system.
No,
as there was
should be
with
pretty
the-
quick.
Right,
Quick.
okay, interesting.
Because
Okay.
we didn't notice anything with PAC. We had it for PAC and both the warden and I
Yeah.
stayed at our separate, I was in St. Peter's and were you at home or
Yes.
at work? Yeah, and worked great.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So
You
that's-
wouldn't necessarily know if it was dealing, right?
yeah, you're,
No,
you're-
oh, but it was instant, like you were talking
Yeah,
instantly and there was no,
Okay.
when you speak, there's no lag in
Oh,
what
there didn't
we're
seem to be any
receiving.
buffering or anything
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
from between when you would respond to us or something, okay.
Yeah.
My lips were moving
Yeah,
with the
yeah,
words.
that's right, I was thinking just watching. Okay.
It
When
didn't
you were
look like-
talking, you were talking.
Exactly, exactly.
is the blurriness on our television here, or is that something that's?
So these screens are not
Not
brand new. They're gonna add an additional level of blurriness. If you look on any of the laptop
Yeah.
screens, they're a little less blurry, but there is still, I think, some fine tuning on the visual that we need to do with this new system, so work in progress, right? But I think much better than the last meeting. Having the two devices seems to confuse the signal even more, so with one, it seems to be working a little bit better.
So on HD, we all look much younger.
That's right. I'm okay with a healthy glow.
I'm okay with the blurriness too.
That's right. So I'll just, I'll close up question period. Thank you, Shelley, for being at the ready. And before we move to in camera, just again, want to thank everybody for watching at home and for folks who came in this evening to the meeting. We appreciate your participation, and please let us know how our new system is doing. We'd love to hear from you. So I'll ask for a motion at this time to move us in camera.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Counselor Sean Sampson. And seconded, please.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Councilor Dickon. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. So we'll just take a quick break and then we'll move to camera.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, everyone.
something to ask you. From an email, I guess.
Oh, yeah.